Alright guys, Dokkan time, and today we're going to be going over the how-to build for the EZA Tech Broly. And we're not talking about the new Carnival unit, no, we're talking about the OG, the original Tech Broly. He's going to be getting an EZA during the next part of the Worldwide Download Celebration, which will be on September 10th at 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, PDT, not PST. So as far as like a quick build, like rundown, 55%, I would highly suggest going in for crit and throwing an attack orb on him and just building towards how you're going to build him with 2 dupes. Moving on to the second kind of quick build here with dupes specifically, I would highly suggest just primarily focusing on a crit and then putting the rest into additional and still keeping that attack orb in the bronze slot. If you are a more fortunate person and you have not wasted the orbs, there is some equipment in the game that does give attack and crit on the silver and gold equips, and I would suggest equipping those if you have them. This is a unit that does absurd damage, and I cannot stress that enough. It does absurd damage. I think Broly rainbowed with Domain, linked up with the new Broly with support, he easily doubles the damage that Jiren can output. AGL Jiren, and that's a lot of damage. I've seen AGL Jiren do 40 to almost 50 million on his one attack that he can do. Pretty much, he can potentially do a double. But the Broly here is a unit that can hit 40 to 50 million on his 18 key after he's transformed and domain and everything else. And he can triple super. He can quad super. So, I mean, the damage this fool can do along with the other Carnival Broly and other units on the team is just absolutely absurd. The other primary build I would probably say is just going literal full-on crit. And literal full-on crit, I mean, put every inch that you can, full-on level 20 crit, and then put the remainder amount into your specific choice. Some people will probably want to go dodge. I completely understand some people that want to kind of go towards the dodge route. I don't suggest it because this is a unit that literally is a glass cannon. It's not like he doesn't have any defense, but in the hardest fights in the game, he can still take damage and he will potentially still get you killed. He is 100% you build him to kill the enemy before they kill you. So, we're just going to go ahead and loop these here while we're going over the kit and everything else. As far as his roles are going, it's pretty much the exact same as the previous Brolys that have been released and EZA'd in this celebration thus far. You're going to have your other Carnival Broly, you're going to have your Super Broly, and then you're going to have the same link partners pretty much, such as Super Broly, EZA, Int Broly, the Carnival Broly, but this EZA this Tech Broly actually is slightly a bit more of an advantage than the Carnival Broly, and it's because he actually has the Super Saiyan link. This is actually Super Saiyan Broly, so he actually is on Super Saiyans. You can put this guy on to the physical trios team for that defense buff. You can throw him onto a Super Saiyan team like Vegeta's team as a leader. And I really like the fact that this Broly is more diverse than the Carnival one just because he has Super Saiyan. I feel like that really opened him up to have better options. But anyways, he is 100% a slot 2 unit. He's a slot 2 unit that's meant to do absurd amount of damage every single turn. He's not supporting or anything, but yeah. So let's just kind of go into into his kit. So as far as 200% options go, you already saw the rolls. As far as rolls go, yeah, he has several different 200% options. He's got God Goku and Hirudegarn. He's got all these different options. But at the end of the day, I mean, his top 3 options are right up there. He is not going to be 200% on the Fizz Trio team, but he will be 170 on the Fizz Trio team. The main reason I still made them as a primary leader is mostly because it doesn't matter if you have them on 170 or 200% because the Fizz Trio is going to make up for that defense difference. You'll lose a little bit of damage, of course. You'll lose a little bit of HP, as you know, for not being 200%. But I feel like the defense might actually be super beneficial to this Broly, and you'll understand that more in the kit once we get to it. So on his 12th key super, he does a raise attack for 1 turn, and it greatly lowers the enemy's defense. Honestly, that lowering defense is very fantastic. There's been a lot of fights as of recent that have been throwing that in, but they have like absurd amount of defense. This Broly will destroy those fights now. With all of his additionals that he can do, he's going to be chucking down that defense and breaking away at them. He greatly stacks attack. The one thing I would like people to understand about this is that because it's on his 18 key, and because Broly transforms on turn 4, you want this Broly on turn 1. Because on turn 1, as long as you get your 18 key off, he gets 1 stack. And then when he comes back around on turn 3, then he gets another stack. But on turn 5, when he comes back around, he will auto transform. That's because this Broly auto transforms at turn 4. So if you get this Broly on turn 2, he will not be able to stack 2 attack stacks. Now, I'm not saying that's like going to make it like him terrible or anything, but you will see a difference in his damage if you only get 1. If you even don't even get any stacks. If you don't get any stacks and he's on like he's on the 7th slot and you just killed and he didn't get to attack, you will feel the difference of him not getting a stack. This is a unit that you want on turn 1. So as far as his passive goes, Ki +3, attack and defense 200, plus an additional attack and defense 120 when performing a super, plus an additional attack and defense 120 when performing an ultra super, which is an 18 key, plus an additional attack plus 50% when the target enemy is in attack down or defense down status. Now the good thing about that is that more than likely you can have that attack going off, because majority of fights on the first phase you can lower attack or defense. So I think it is very likely you will actually get this 50% off right here. Plus an additional Ki +3 and launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack when facing only 1 enemy. So that's a 50% chance to do an additional super. He then gets another plus an additional Ki +5 and launches an additional super attack when facing 2 or more enemies. Now it's very unlikely he'll be fighting a lot of enemies that are going to have multiple enemies, but on the off chance that it does, I mean, you'll just be wiping the floor with them. You'll just be wiping them out. And as I said before, with his 18 key, he does auto transform at turn 4. He has Saiyan Warrior, Race, Saiyan Lineage, Berserker, Prepare for Battle, Super Saiyan, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. Basically all Broly links. Berserker is an interesting link. He's actually on quite a few categories. Power Beyond Super Saiyan. Like I said, this Broly is actually a little bit better in terms of team options compared to the Carnival Broly, because he's in his Super Saiyan form first and foremost. That's why I was kind of disappointed when I saw the Carnival Broly being in his base state, not his Super Saiyan state, even though they kind of show the animations of him in Super Saiyan. It really restricted what teams he could be on. And with the Super Saiyan Link, you have, well, the Super Saiyan Link, and then you have Power Beyond Super Saiyan because he goes into Legendary. So he just has a couple more options than the normal Carnival Broly. And of course, his options are, of course, he himself is his best buddy. I will say it is very odd, though, that he doesn't link as well with the Super Broly. The only thing they're going to really share is Super Saiyan and Prepare for Battle. Berserker is a link that is not going to go off very often because you have to be below 50% HP. Now, don't get me wrong, you can easily hit below 50% HP with this Broly, especially since he is kind of weak defensively. But I don't think you'll be hitting it very often still. But when that Berserker link goes off, he will be doing absurd amounts of damage. So let's look at his other part of his transformation into Legendary Super Saiyan. So on his 12 key, at that point, he'll be raising attack and defense and still greatly lowering defense. And then on his 18 key super, he'll be greatly raising attack and defense, and massively lowering defense. More than likely, you will never be able to take advantage of that massive lowering, unless you're in a, I don't know, maybe Bio Broly. Bio Broly, I know, has an absurd amount of defense. Or was it Hirudegarn? I think it's Hirudegarn, the red zone fight, has an absurd amount of defense. This might be your ticket to kicking that thing's butt if you were having struggles. But key plus 4 attack and defense plus 220%, plus an additional attack and defense 120, and launches an additional attack that has a 50% chance of performing a super attack. So no changes really there other than attack and defense up. Chance of performing a crit plus 6% for extreme class allies for 2 turns, plus an additional attack plus 166%, and guards all attacks when performing an 18 key super. So the way that that's worded, it can be a little complicated, but basically your extreme class allies for 2 turns have a plus 6% critical rate, which is very interesting. I'm not entirely sure why they threw that in there, because he doesn't have crit in any other part of his passive. He's just supporting allies, which is nice. It's good. It's fun. You do have to hit 18 key to get the guard to proc. If you do not hit 18 key, you will not have the guard or the extra attack plus 166%. The crit for allies is just there. Plus an additional attack plus 100% when target is in an attack down or defense down status. Now, unlike before in his base state, I would argue to say that you will not be seeing that going off. Because by the time you hit turn 4, turn 5, more than likely you're gone on to the second, middle, or end phases of fights, and in all of those, typically, you are not able to lower attack or defense. Obviously, like I said, there is certain fights that you will be able to take advantage of it, but majority of the fights you will not see it active. Plus an additional key plus 4 and launches an additional attack that has a 70% chance of becoming a super when facing only one enemy. And then plus an additional key plus 6 and launches an additional super attack when facing 2 or more enemies. This part of his passive, I promise you, you will not ever see almost unless they release a very difficult Extreme Super Battle Road stage. This is almost non-existent. I legitimately cannot think of an entire thing in the game that is quote-unquote difficult content that will ever be proccing. Obviously, you know, you have the Bardock fighting Frieza's Force kind of stage, you know, that not unlimited, but, you know, 10 plus stage fights, and you're constantly fighting extra enemies. So in that, on that kind of event, you can make use of this, but otherwise you will never see that active in actual difficult content, because usually I literally cannot think of any blue zone, any red zone, anniversary fight that will more than likely have that active by that time. Well, it's not true on anniversary fights. On anniversary fights with Goku and Vegeta, you might be able to activate it then. He does have an active skill, which is Ki plus 24 and attack plus 48% for only 1 turn. You can activate that right away. I would highly suggest just holding on to that when you want to kill the boss. And he has all the same links as his base state, so he perfectly links up with himself, which will obviously never happen because you're not going to use him as a leader, but he will perfectly link with the other Brolys. If the STR-LR Broly ever gets his Super Easy A, which eventually one day he will, hopefully this Broly will still be semi-relevant. You'll be able to take advantage of that at that point. So, with all that being said, let's go take a look at his defense. So compliments to Halvard for this. The defense numbers here, 18 key super, and then with 40% support, 1.2 mil. Not terrible, especially with the fact that he can have guard. I don't think that's a terrible amount of defense, but you're not surviving like Gogeta Blue or Beast Gohan Supers. You will get killed. You will. Yeah. You will get killed from that, unfortunately. There is only one defense link, so as long as you have Prepare for Battle going off, there's nothing to worry about on links as far as his defense goes. But once he transforms into Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, as long as you have a domain active with 40% support, I would say you better hope that you at least triple super. Now, the unfortunate thing here is that I think that Halvard is calculating these numbers with the fighting more than one enemy popping off, which let's go back and look at his kit real quick. So he has plus additional high attack and high chance of becoming a super. So that's his second one. So he's got his initial super attack, and then he has that one. And then he has the launch and additional attack that has a great chance of becoming super when facing only one enemy. So that's 3. If you're fighting 2 enemies, you could get to a quad super. Not possible in my personal opinion, or at least not in actual difficult fights where your defense will matter. But then you also have your hidden potential. So you do have a chance to quad super, not penta super. But let's take a look here. He has triple. Okay. So he is taking into consideration that more than likely you will not be, because he says that's with 3. So thankfully he did that. I still don't think it's very often that you will hit a full-on quad super, at least not one where the boss will live. So I would probably say you're going to be in the range of between 1.2 mil to 1.4. Depending on your dupes, but depending on if you put like a defense orb. If you put a defense orb on him instead of an attack orb, that would change and push his defense over to the full-on 1.2 to 1.4 between those second and third additional supers. So that is something to keep in mind. And he does have guard, specifically. So I mean that is good. That is good. I think he can be very good. Wait, does he have guard? I swear his thing said, yeah, he has guard all attacks right here. Yeah, so long as you get at least triple super, I would say majority of attacks you can live with that kind of defense numbers. But if you're fighting like Gogeta Blue super attacks, his damage could actually go high enough on normals where he could actually hurt you, because it's super versus extreme, especially if you don't have a rainbow, because that extra defense numbers from the hidden potential will matter. So, you know, looking at the builds on the right-hand side of the screen, I would say you should highly kind of consider, actually, you know, putting a defense orb instead of an attack orb if you so wish to. I think it could make a very small enough difference to push him over a kind of a threshold area where he can tank a little bit better. But as I said before, I think this guy's a full-on, he's a kill the enemy before he kills you. He's a he's not a glass cannon. He's like, I don't know. I'm not really sure how to describe him, but he's not a glass cannon. More like tempered glass. Yeah, more like tempered glass. But anyways, guys, let me know how you're going to choose to build this Broly. I'm going to probably go aiming for the 17 crit and then put the rest into additional. Try to get a little bit of a healthy additional in there. Hopefully proc that. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good day and a good night.